Okay, we are live, and I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys a couple of minutes to join in. And I've realized that I didn't want to keep doing what I was doing, which was have people have the choice to not actually watch this, but just to put their name down below and they receive the treatment. I don't want to do it anymore. If you're gonna go ahead and spend time with me and you know, invest your time with me, I'm going to invest my energy with you. So if you want to watch this live or in the recording and be a part of it, fantastic. I am here to also give back to you as well. So as you can see right there, when it comes to health, size matters, right? Right there. See where it says that? So what does that mean? Is he talking about what I think he's talking about? No, I'm not. It's called clickbait. I'm not above that. In fact, I'm doing it right now. But it does make a difference. The size of what is the question. What are you talking about? Size of what, Keith? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by this. And you shouldn't, because it isn't clear deliberately. I didn't give you what was clear because I wanted you to watch. So when we talk about being sick, in the last 3.5 years was this massive debate over, were people really sick? Was it all in their minds? Was it only suggestion by a crazy mainstream media campaign propaganda tour? Or was it actually something that they were sick with that was unusual? And was it lethal, not lethal, lethal to some, but not to most? All these questions, right? What made you healthy? So I'm going to give you a story on what brought my attention to whether someone was doing well with their health or not. People say, "Well, you sit there and make these proclamations about someone's health and whether they have enough life force or not," and I'm just not sure how you even think you know that. They're not even in the same room with you. You're making these determinations on people who are a long, long way from you, Keith. And that just doesn't seem possible, and it sounds like you're a quack. Well, I'll give you the story of how I came to feel the way I do about people's energy. Let's talk about Bruce Lipton for a second. Bruce Lipton, I know him. I know Bruce Lipton. I like his stuff. It's fantastic. Well, it is. It's pretty good. I'm glad you're excited about Bruce Lipton. He does a really good job of explaining quantum physics, which, by the way, is all made up. It's all made up. It's science, and it's totally made up to try to describe things, as usual, that we have questions about. Okay, but we'll use that for a second. He takes quantum physics principles and puts them in very layman's everyday terms so we can start to relate to them. And he talks about who we are as human beings. He says, look, if, as we were taking the atom apart, now, is there an atom? That's debatable. But we'll go with what he said. If you take the atom apart, Keith, he didn't address me personally, but I like to think that he was, because, well, it's fun that way. He says, Keith, in my mind, when we take the atom apart, we find out that basically it's just made of light. You could also look at it as it's made of waveforms, a giant field of information and energy that everything springs out of. Everything is that there's no such thing as actual matter. This is not really what you think it is, right? It's not. It is actually just the illusion of light, of energy, giving us a physical format in this gigantic matrix to interact with. It's our own little playground that we have popped up into. And he talks about how the cells are basically, and your chromosomes are tuners, and they are receiving information and transmitting information into this matrix, this gigantic field of frequency. And with that, you are like a television set. So if you have a television set and there's a broadcast being pumped through the air everywhere, then if you have the television set tuned to the right station, then you will pick up a certain broadcast in that sea of different broadcasts that are possible to pick up. Now, we all stream now. Very few people, I think, are picking up airwaves, certainly, or even picking it up through cable. But you're watching something, you're streaming it, and you're hooked up into an information field. And in that information field, you're then narrowing into what you want to interact with, what you want to have tangible sort of in your world through a screen. And he says, we're like that. So once these bodies cease to live, does the broadcast signal stop? No, It just means in this case, the TV set is broken and no longer able to receive the information or transmit information back out into the matrix, into this giant field of potential reality. Certainly, I haven't lost you by now. This is fairly simple, I think, the way I'm presenting it, and it's kind of the way he presented it. So his point is, don't get attached to this being physical. Even the idea of we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, yes, but even that isn't accurate because this isn't even physical in that way. It's just simply energy taking a different form. But as soon as this particular type of form dies or ceases to work, it's all still there. All the information is still there. This is how I can tap into a person's history, whether they're in a body or not, and go, well, what did they experience in their life? And I move back from, well, from where they were conceived, gestation, childhood, adolescence, since we like that in the West, having this whole adolescence thing, and then adult years until they die or they're still alive. But I can track through and pick up pieces of information because it never leaves its presence in the fabric of reality, into the matrix. It's always there. So if that's true, getting attached to a biochemical model as being the only way to describe who we are and what all of this creation is very limited and inaccurate because you're only focusing in on the end result of this sea of energy that manifests in an infinite number of ways. You're getting all attached and myopic in your view on one particular manifestation. And so that would be, at the very least, incorrect. And nobody has this all figured out. But we have some ideas of what we are. There's a lot of comments here I'm missing. I'm so sorry. Good day, everyone. Rachel and Mary and Nancy and Frank. So if this is all true, and that we're really just these, another way of looking at it, these waveforms that are just, this is the matrix, right? It's just this constant waveform, these waves going of different frequency, different amplitude, different longitude of the wave. It's all these varied frequencies. And where they come together and intersect, you have then all of these manifestations. It's okay, Vicki. We're just talking about who we really are, and to look at ourselves as biochemistry only is a very limited viewpoint of who we are as human beings or what creation is in itself, all of it, that it's light, it's information. But to get attached to its physicality is to miss the whole point. There's people like, oh gosh, what's his name? He's British. He did the Oscars. He really just rocked everybody by supposedly spilling some truths, and I can't think of his name to save my life right now. But anyway, he's an atheist, and I'm like, wow, how do you interact with this life experience and not believe that there's something beyond just this physical expression? It blows my mind. But anyway, there you have it. That's what some people believe. They don't have the experience of the obviousness that this is only the tip, as they say, the tip of the iceberg. But let's get back to what this was about and sizes, matters, and so on. Ricky Gervais. Thank you, Frank. Always dependable. Frank, always having the answers. Ricky Gervais. Yeah, atheist. He just can't see beyond this experience. So that's, and unfortunately for me, for him, that's a loss, in my opinion. You're not getting a depth of life experience you could have otherwise. There's a lot of people like that, even those who claim to believe in a God and a spiritual afterlife and so on. But you talk about these things, they go, I don't believe that nonsense. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. That's a bunch of woo-woo. It's like, really? So you claim that there's a God and that there's a spiritual world, a life, but you can't entertain what we're talking about. You need to look into that and see where your disconnect is. So as far as the size matters thing, where I use my clickbait, it's very clickbaitish, I admit it. But size does matter because whenever I finally met Master O, the teacher who created the Qigong form that we do all the time and that I teach and Angel teaches, that really powers everything that I do, that daily practice. I met him and I could feel energy at that point. I was definitely tuning in to feeling clients and feeling that there was different patterns of heat and cool and electrical feelings in people's bodies and a feeling of almost a suction where it pulls your focus in like there's something that's deficient there, and it's drawing you in like, ooh, life force, we need it. And so it overloads it really wrong. So it's precious, and it draws it in. You're like, well, that's deficiency. All these different qualities of moving your hand over a person's body as they lie on a table and feeling all these different states. So I practiced that, and I was practicing it in from a distance. And so when I see Master O on stage and he's lecturing, it's the first time meeting him, and I'm sitting next to my friend Paul Frazier, who invited me there to Boston. I was living in Missouri at the time, to come see this guy that created the qigong form you've been doing. Yeah, come out here and see him speak. Get around him. So I did, and I'm feeling him up on that stage talking, and I'm like, good Lord, because most people's field, when you feel them, you can kind of move, you be away from them, get closer and closer, and start to feel this weird, like spongy, springy resistance, almost a static electricity type of a feeling as you get closer to them. And depending on how healthy they are, depends on how far away you are until you start feeling that weird electrical, spongy, almost like a magnetic pushing away resistance feeling to your hands. You're like, oh, I can feel that. And if someone's really weak, where you have to get really close to feel it, you're like, you must not be very strong for me to have to get that close to your body. And it isn't consistent too. And to be fair, sometimes you'll move over a person, you're like, oh, it's really strong out here. And then you get down into the face and it gets a lot less, it broadcasts less of a distance away. And you have different areas that are bigger in its broadcast and smaller. And there's reasons for that. And sometimes it isn't just about their health level of health. It's about where the heart projects a massive field, and it's a lot bigger than the field produced by the head. Even though we in the West value this as being the most important part of us, the energetic field says very differently. It says, hey, no. What's broadcast from the chest, that's really the big broadcasting area. But when I felt Master O, I'm not on the front row of that stage. It's like an auditorium in a hospital, an old hospital. I'm back a few seats, a few rows. And I'm like, golly, oh man, it's like he's like sitting there in front of the sun. It's baking you. It's so powerful. And then I would, be further away from him and feel him. He's across the parking lot. Still feel him. He's in California, and I'm living now in North Carolina, and you can still feel him. He's enormous when you lock into his field that he's producing. What in the world? Who feels like that? That's what gets your attention. You're like, now hang on. If most people are broadcasting a field of like their force field that's a couple of feet or 3 feet or even 6 or 12 feet, you're like, okay, I've got a range of normal that I feel with people on average. But then you feel someone like him, you're like, his field goes on for miles. And then you feel him in lecture where he's intentionally expanding it further and stronger emission. And it's just blowing your hair back in a lecture. As I went to his ranch about what's it been, 6 years ago? And we're sitting in a separate building from the house on the ranch that's kind of a lecture hall. Seats probably, 40, 50 people, I think, if you put the chairs really close together. And he's up there lecturing to this advanced group. It's an advanced retreat at his house. And it's 50 some odd degrees in there. And they've got heaters trying to heat the place up, but it's not there yet. It's just not warm yet. We just started, and we're all bundled up in coats, and he's got a jacket on, like a sports jacket, a blazer over a button up. And he starts to pull the blazer off. I'm like, dude, it's not that warm. It's not that warm in here. You're taking your blazer off now? Whoa, you must be really warm natured, because I'm pretty warm natured. It's freaking cold in here, man, just to sit here. And he takes it off. He's like, you probably wonder why I'm taking my jacket off and why, I'm standing here and I'm animated. And it's like, I want to know why you are broadcasting that much of your field that forcefully into this room that it's knocking people out and blowing my hair back. And he was proving a point in that moment of a few things. And I won't go into all of it right now because it's not important for this emphasis. But the fact that he could do it is my point. He could choose when to just boom, blow it out. And you're like, golly, how do you have that kind of power? So when you have that kind of a reference, okay, so that's what's possible. And I feel all these other people, everybody else, and you're like, golly, we're little tiny energetic ants compared to him. Then something's amiss. It should be better than this. Did you guys ever watch any kind of space opera television shows or movies? Did you watch Star Trek, the first series in the 60s and 70s? Or did you ever watch Star Trek The Next Generation in the 90s? Did you ever watch Star Wars? Any of the movies, the TV series, any of that stuff where they have a ship and they have a force field. And so when they're hit by debris, asteroids, or another ship is firing on them, the actual structure of the ship isn't taking immediately direct blows and killing half the ship or destroying the ship immediately. There's a force field being produced by the ship that these projectiles are hitting first, and they're bouncing off or they're being incinerated by the field until it's so damaged. Frank says, I watched all those. So, it's so damaged at a point, though, that the field no longer is emitting like it should. And then the projectiles are actually hitting the structure of the ship. And that's when the real damage is taken. You can totally use that analogy for how we work. And I knew that people are like, well, the viral model is an absolute lie. There's no viral model, and they're holding us captive by acting like there's a viral model, and then they give us all these countermeasures to deal with the viral model things, and it's wrong. It's built on falsehood. I'm like, sure, you know what? Let's say you're right. The viral model isn't correct. I certainly had my suspicions around it, that it was the only way of looking at it. Whenever I was treating people from a distance and they were sick with something, and then I would work on them for an hour, and then they weren't. Their fever would break. They'd go into these chills, and the fever would break, and then they would feel totally better, or at least a lot better. And my fever broke. I'm not aching anymore. Thanks, man. I'm like, well, what happened? What the freak just happened? How do I work on you from a distance? And then something happens in your body that then whatever was infringing on your personal space is no longer a factor? How does that work in a viral model? Right? So, I've been questioning this for 20 years. So I'm with you. But something's happening. And the Chinese said, look, just think of it like an invasion of energy of some kind. And some of you are going, oh, I believe that. I believe that. Because I believe that electromagnetic fields being broadcast by technologies are damaging to us. Well, if you want to follow that model, which I agree with you, your house is that way. All your walls are built with all this electrical wiring in there. And they're always on unless you turn the main on or main off in your switch box. Right? Your electrical box, your fuse box. They don't have fuses anymore. They have switches. But if you turn the whole thing off, then yes, you turn all the wiring in the walls off. But most of us don't do that. You don't go, well, everybody, it's 11 o'clock p.m., time to go to bed. Daddy and mommy are going to go and turn the switch off of the box and kill the power to the house. We don't do that. At best, we unplug the Wi-Fi. But this is producing a constant bathing you of EMF. Then you have everything else on top of it. And most of us don't even think about the electricity in the walls. But that's the case. It's an issue. It's producing a field. And that field affects our fields. Right? So I'm with you. Those things are factors. But the invasions that I was feeling in the last 3.5 years was more than that. It was different. We already had those. But Keith, they were turning on 5G. That's what was happening, people. It was all 5G. Yeah, except I knew a lot of people living out in the middle of nowhere where there's no 5G. They're lucky to get any 3G signal. They don't even get cell service, some of them. So, what were they getting that was new? Rachel says dirty electricity. Well, they had that going on. It's true, it's an issue, but they had that going on already. Something different was introduced 3.5 years ago. And what was it? And how could I interact with it? Rachel says, well, I did that for a sick nephew. My sister was blown away, right? Rachel worked on the sick nephew, and then something got aligned in that person's body, that nephew's body, and the body goes, oh, I've got this. And then it goes into a healing state and kicks out the invader. Because the field, you could argue, gets restored. If the field is restored and huge, then nothing gets through it. Do you also see why it's such a weird thing to have, well, Vicky says they have a 6G and they call it non-terrestrial network. News to me. I see all kinds of stuff online. forgive me for being a massive skeptic, unless I see absolute evidence of something or can feel it, which is my own personal evidence. I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Unless we have true insight and not someone's video on YouTube or some article someone wrote. I don't know. Could be. I just don't know. Are there tunnels under the earth? Absolutely, Keith. I've read articles and I've seen videos. Okay, but have you been in them? No, neither have I. Do I suspect it's true? Sure. Do I know it? No, I don't know it. Never been in one. I don't know anybody who's ever been in one, but we suspect it could be true. It's kind of where I sit with all that. I don't call anything definitively it's a thing unless I've had actual personal experience with it or have someone I trust implicitly who says, yes, I've been there. Then I'm like, okay, probably true. So I don't know. Maybe there is. I don't know. I just don't know. But I do know this invasion idea and taking something in a syringe and bypassing someone's field, that's the first detector of any kind of potential invader, and you come in and go directly into the skin and then go directly into the muscle or a vein, and then you inject something. What have you done that we have not had, as far as we know, in human history, at least in recent human history? You bypass that entire force field, because if the person is healthy and that force field it's all info from the people who want to control everything. They have a manual of human competition. Send it to me. And if I can authenticate the source and it's not just somebody posing as somebody else, I'm all in. I do suspect all the things you're saying is true, Vicki, but you have to understand, I just don't ever put a stamp on anything I can't verify for myself, like without a doubt. I can't. I just where I am in life. I just can't do it. So if you go in and do that, right, what if you bypass? You bypass the entire force field of that person and just gone straight into their body. That's exactly what the body doesn't want happening. It wants to be able to go, something's poking around on the perimeter. Identification of what that is. And if it recognizes what that thing is, it has an already prepared energetic and, yes, a biochemical attack, a response mechanism that's familiar with the invader and goes, we got you. You're not getting in. We've seen you before. You're not getting in. It identifies it. If it's new, it's going, what is this? What is this thing coming in? Mounting attack, figuring it out. What's going on here? And if you're strong enough, it moves it out. If not, it then gets into skin level and you have a new set of symptoms. Symptoms coming into the field, you'll have those. The initial, I think I could be getting sick. That's it coming into your field. If it gets to the skin level, that's another level of, it's amped up in intensity and maybe even a new set of symptoms. That's not good. I feel sicker. And then it starts working its way into the body. If it gets to the organ level, you're in deep doo-doo. That's kind of the way it works. So when I meet Master O and his is enormous, I'm like, whoa, that's what's possible. Then I take I survey humanity around me and start figuring out what the average size is. Oh, now we're back to size matters. Woo, Keith, this is scintillating. It's amazing. So, you've got that type of thing to factor in, is what do people have going on. So when I see people out there going, well, I'm an energy worker, and so I do this, and this, and I feel your Wei Qi level, your force field, and it's like, it's tiny. You have to understand, I can't look at you and go, you're in great, impeccable, resilient health. I can't do it. Does it mean that powerful forces that are not moving through you to have interaction with other people and bring healing? Not saying that at all. I've known a couple that I feel them out and I go, woo, I would not want to be you right now. Your energetic structure is fragile. And yet you're operating with some powerful sourcing that moves through you to other people and creates amazing effects. Bravo. Absolutely fantastic. However, I would not want to be you because you feel fragile, and I don't think it'd take much to take you out, whatever kind of invader it would be. So you've got to be about both. All right? These people that have had the countermeasure, who are going into these clinics or trying this supplement and that supplement and this multi-week, hook them up to IV bags and give them all these different things. And they're like, Look, we're bringing them right back to where they were before they got the countermeasure. And they get out, and I start, and the energy isn't big. I can tell they've cleaned some things up in a person. Sometimes it's remarkable. I'm like, wow, that is amazing how this person feels. That protocol was really effective of really ridding them for the moment of a lot of the things that the countermeasure had introduced into their system and is continually being produced, as we know. It's a lot better. But it didn't give them a massive energetic force field. Their body wasn't restored to some amazing state to ward off all future invasions. Not at all. And then unfortunately, not even was that not put into place. Then I feel that once they've left the protocol and there's nothing else going on after that, or at least nothing like what was happening in that clinic or that protocol, and all the telltale signs of the countermeasures activity of the body start coming back again. And I'm like, oh man, you just spent 20, 30, 40 grand on spending weeks in a clinic to bring you back to normal. And I can already feel in you that the activity that they tried to stamp out, now the person's healed, it's coming back. Now, will it go back to the same level it was before? Maybe not. That may be the gift they gave you, was that it did reduce the overall level of influence. And that's certainly worth doing. But ladies and gentlemen, when I tell you that doing the Qigong form that I teach, Angel teaches, some of you here are watching are maybe teachers as well of Ponggu Shingon, that particular form absolutely strengthens everything and moves that energetic immunity. It moves that force field way out, and it builds it bigger and bigger and bigger every day as you are diligent doing it. Well, that doesn't make any sense to me, Keith. How could that possibly be? How could moving your body around, your hands or something, create some kind of, I don't understand that. I know. This is where the mystery is. How can someone like a Master O, who's from China originally, now living in the States since like 1998, I think, how could he create some type of energetic software, unseen software, which that's how software is, right? That would absolutely start bringing in all of this energy into the body to fortify the organ systems, to then give the body the ability to produce this amazing force field. How could he do that? It's a great question. I'm going to give you the answer the best I can, and it's not going to be scientific. I think it's his unique relationship with God. He went into prison as an atheist, a good communist, and when he left prison at 26, he was not an atheist anymore. He had an encounter with God. God moved in and said, I'm going to change you. And he fought it in the beginning. He fought it. I don't believe this. I think I'm losing my mind. This isn't true. I don't believe in a God. I believe in nothing that's beyond this supposed tangible existence. I'm losing it. But over time, he realized he wasn't losing his mind, and that a one infinite creator moved in as presented to him and started to change everything about the way he works and what he understood. And he's not the only one. This has happened to many people in the world all throughout time. And they often serve as signs for us, or examples of, look, this is what's possible. I'm not saying it's the end of what's possible, the full taking advantage and completion of what's possible, but it is at least an example of what is possible. And they create often pathways for us to walk on in order to entrain to that uncovering and unfolding of what our potential is. And so you entrain to the creation of that software they created for us, if you wish, to change your potential expression of who you came to the world to possibly be. That's what it's for. And it doesn't make sense in biochemistry. Nobody in the allopathic world is going to take it seriously unless they're truly seeking beyond the allopathic model. And all I can tell you is my experience of it is very, very real. I'll stand behind it every single time, that his particular pathway that he created, his entrainment possibility, that is his life, is a powerful one. And it isn't just making the organ system stronger, making that force field bigger. It, as he says, it's the tempering of the heart and soul. It's a refinement of our humanity. It's a refinement of who we are, not because of behavior modification, but who we are as the innate broadcasting and transmission of a beautiful heart and soul. That's what the potential is. That's what his whole entire focus is and has been for a long time. He's 76 and he's been doing this for, his encounter happened when he was 26 in prison. So, folks, when we're talking about being healthy and you hear me go, like Bruce Lipton, bless his heart, they say in the South, bless his heart, that Bruce Lipton, bless his heart. He's such a sweet man. But here's the deal. I wouldn't want to be Bruce Lipton. Can I tell he's worked some things out in there? Can I tell that he's onto some things that are in alignment with what we would call universal truth? Yeah, I think he is. Has he learned how to cultivate that massive amount of life force daily till his force field is enormous? Not even close. Unfortunately, Mr. Bruce Lipton feels like just about everybody else. But see, the idea of cultivating life force has not permeated the Western culture at all. And I would dare say probably in the cities of even the Asian countries, those people have probably forgotten their history. And so when I look at you guys and I see your comments, I see your names, I see you in, whatever you show up on, I can feel you. When you write anything, I can feel your field through what you've written, typed on the screen. It always carries your signature with it. And most of you could use what I'm talking about. You could use a tool that allows you to expand that field and truly become resilient, because most of you are not. But I'm an energy worker. I'm not saying you're not. I'm not saying you have to do amazing work. I'm just saying that as it stands right now in this framework of that field of protection, and as I described you, Master O's insanely large field, you're not there. And it doesn't feel like you're even working your way there, which leads me to believe you don't have the tools or tool necessary to build that. You just don't know it yet. It's not in your awareness. Or if you do have it, you're not using it. You're not taking advantage of the tool every day to cultivate. It's an ongoing daily discipline. So if you have it, you're not doing it. That's just laziness. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or like I am doing what you're talking about, I think, but you're telling me it's not happening for me. I'm like, it could be other reasons. You could have a lot of other stressors in your life that are just pulling the energy out of you. They're just robbing you because your stress level is so freaking high. Totally happens. I get it. Rachel says, I felt a big improvement after class Saturday. I feel fuller, had a ton of motivation, energy, like I had a new gas tank. Yeah, see, Rachel's an example of someone who has a lot of natural ability. She was reared in an environment growing up, which is unusual for most people I talk to, that actually fostered that awareness and recognition of what we consider to be supernatural gifts, which I don't think are supernatural. I think they're God-given rights for human beings. We've just forgotten how to utilize them or forgot they're even there. But for Rachel, they've always been in her awareness. And I said, Rachel, all you need is something to power this to make you really resilient and give some pop behind your abilities. And that's why I'm like, learn the Qigong form and just do it every day. Do it 2 or 3 times a day. Gotta work your way into it. Do it a couple of times a day before you go to bed at night. You get up, a couple before you go to bed, and then move it to 3, then move it to 4. And how serious are you at being an energy worker will depend on how much you end up doing over time. Because a lot of you are very gifted. You've got great intention. You've got great focus, great identification of patterns of dysfunction, but you don't have the firepower behind it to keep doing something in the way that you've been doing it, or even the way you could do it, without there eventually being a wear and tear that you have your own health issues. And you don't want that. You want to have the ability to train like an athlete. You train for the event. It comes time to help someone out. Well, I need to train to make sure when it comes time to help someone out, I can bring an Olympic level ability and stamina to the event, and then not collapse afterwards or do enough events to where I eventually hurt myself. And so that's what I'm talking about. For the rest of you are like, well, I don't do any of that, Keith. I don't do any of that treatment stuff. I don't want that. I just want to be healthier. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Same goes for you too. So this is what's happening is I'm doing a lot of Twitter Spaces voyeurism. I'm just tuning in and listening and watching these people. And I hear all these people that have been injured by the countermeasure, and they're trying all these things, and they're all passive. I'm taking this, I'm doing that, I'm having this injected, having an IV bag full of this in there, and it's all passive, passive, passive. And then they wonder why they're not getting better and staying better. You're not going to through just passive means from what I've seen so far. I'm sure someone eventually will make me eat my words, and that's okay. I'm willing to eat them, but I haven't felt it so far. You're going to have to engage in this and be empowered to do something to change your situation for yourself. And this little simple exercise that I teach is what will help you do that better than anything else I know of. Because if I saw something else, felt something else that I thought was better, I would be doing it. I'm an equal opportunity guy. I don't have that kind of loyalty to anyone or anything where I'm like, well, this over here is so much better, but I've known you so long and I really love you. And I'm just going to keep doing your thing, even though that's better. That is not how I work. It's not how I work. I can still love you, but know that something else is going to do what I want to do better than what you're offering. Frank says, just like the 12 Senses workshop we participated, there's a potential, but it requires refinement and entrainment. Yeah, you've got to just stick with it if the tools are good. Frank says, also, unfortunately, their soul connection has been breached. Boy, that's well said. I do believe that the people who've had the countermeasure, a lot of them, depending on what's in the bottle you got, the batch you got, there is a disconnect of that whole idea of heavenly connection and then connection to the earth itself in this body. There's been something that's occluded that purity of connection. And it's really screwing people up, people who are doing pretty well, and now they're not. And that's just a whole different kind of problem. So anyway, this is 36 minutes in. So I think I've said what I had to say about it. And I think hopefully you got it, that bigger is better. Your immunity depends on that field being bigger because it's an indicator of how well all the organ systems are doing. There's certain organ systems like the lungs that are even more important about the projection of that force field. They're really involved in it. But all the organ systems only have their role in that force field being really big and really resilient. It's an indicator of what's happening inside of you. But if you don't know how to feed and build all this, you won't. And unfortunately, eating the right foods, which means a different thing for different people, taking the right supplements, getting the right amount of sleep, drinking the right kind of water. I see all these people on Twitter Spaces talking about the water. Oh, if you don't drink the right water, now the water's the key to this all getting better. I'm like, it's a key. Water is important, no doubt, but it's not the key. Or these people would feel a lot different than they do, and they don't. What I'm talking about is a major piece of the puzzle. I just know for most of you have no place for this to land. You're like, I hear him talking. I hear him say there's an exercise. I don't get that. And then if I do it every day, I build my immunity. I mean, that just sounds, exercise I know is healthy, but you're saying this is a special kind of exercise that builds immunity in a different and new way than what I think of as exercise? Yes, that is what I'm saying. That it's almost mystical? Yeah, it is mystical. Meaning we don't understand exactly how it works, but it does. I don't know how this works personally, this phone, but it does. Yes, but Keith, other people, they know how it works. Maybe you don't, but they do. True. Well, same thing goes for what I'm describing as a simple exercise that can change your life. Master O obviously knows how it works. He created it. Do I fully understand it? And Vicky says, of course it makes sense. The breath is life. Yes, but what's weird about this Qigong form is that you focus on the breath hardly at all. Isn't that weird? Right? Hardly at all. That's what makes it unusual too. Where's all the breathing? Where's all the moving of energy through your body with all your intention, your will? He made it easier than that, and yet more powerful for what I want to accomplish than the other forms that focus so much on those things. So interesting, isn't it? He's a bit of a conundrum, that Master O. All right, treating you all. So there's a password phrase that encompasses the meaning and purpose of that Qigong form, that exercise I keep talking about. And it goes like this. And this is Chinese into English. It's Chinglish. It's not a great translation. Those languages are so different, as you know. So, but it goes like this. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion. and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Take kindness and benevolence as basis. Take frankness and friendliness to heart. Speak with reason. Treat with courtesy. Act with emotion and accomplish results. Now, that's just a little example. What did it feel like to you? Did anybody feel anything in your body? Did it bring up any kind of emotion? Did it cause you to feel relaxed, unusually so, even sleepy? What's your feedback on that? What did you notice? I would love to get your feedback on that. I'm looking at my phone also to see maybe where people have texted something I missed. But I'd love to hear your feedback on that. Peace. Melody says peace. Perfect. So there's peace. Calmness. There you go. Those are typical things people feel, especially with a short exposure of it. Right? It's kind of a wave that washes over you and calms the heart, calms the mind. It just brings this beautiful wave of energy. Now let's bring something else kind of fun into this. Let's bring, Frank says, calm and sleepy. Let's bring another tool, energetic tool in here. And you've heard me use it before from a different discipline, a different source, a different person than Master O. His name is Mujin Choi. And his is called Blu-ray healing. His format of healing, his style. And one of those tools is an interesting sound that he said he heard from a Korean shaman and thought, I'm paraphrasing his words, of course, but he said that feels interesting and powerful. And he adopted it. And it turned out to be interesting and powerful. And it's used in my experience so far to clear out the blockage, to clear out the not just this meridian structure, but I use this because I have a doll that I can show you. But it opens up all these pathways of energy flow and energy and information flow and communication. And it sounds like this. Shh, 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 shh. Gotcha, Vicky. Shh, 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 shh. What happens if I combine Mastro's Pongu Shingon style in energy cultivation with that clearing technique for another style? So what if I put you in my Qigong form of Pongu Shingon and yet also keep that sound going from the other style and combine them both? This is what you get. Shh, 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 shh. What was that like for you? Give me some feedback if you would. What did you feel? What did you notice between just that blue, wow, Blu-ray energy technique of clearing with Pongu Shingon? What were they like separately? What was your experience? Did you notice a difference? What was that like for you? And then we'll wrap this up. Mary says it was deeper. Which one? The Blu-ray by itself or the two combined, the Qigong form plus the sound? Which one, if you'd be specific, Mary? Anybody else care to comment? I know you're texting right now. I'll give you a second. Vicky, just listening to it is calming and peaceful. Combined, says Mary, it was deeper. Nancy says, God wave, felt love coming into my heart. Thank you for your feedback. Excellent. So when I combine them both, often in treatment, that's what I do. And you can ask Nancy, you can ask Frank. Who else am I missing here? I think that's it. Forgive me if I'm not seeing your name here. But Vicky and Frank have both taken my classwork where they learn how to do those techniques and to combine them both. And Melody says, well, my dog was howling. And yes, animals, cats, dogs, horses, they in the beginning kind of lose their mind when they hear it or are like totally attentive. And if I do it long enough, they start passing out on the floor asleep. That's what's interesting about the animals. Frank says blocks distractions. Yeah. And so if you combine these two together and other tools, then you then learn to do what I do. And I do that in like 8 weeks. And I'll be starting a new basic medical Qigong part 1 class in like 3 weeks, maybe sooner. We'll see. But I'll put the sign up for that out there. Frank's taking it. Nancy's taking it. So they can speak on what they learned and how they've applied it. But yeah, I'll be starting that soon. You can learn how to do this, guys. It's not hard. All Mastro's work is intentionally easy. My work is intentionally easy. Now, Frank's in part 2 right now, a little more involved, a little more in depth, but that's why it's part 2. So, guys, this whole Candace says, oh, Candace, hi, Candace. The Shingon Qigong boosts the Blu-ray. Yes. Oh, Candace, bravo. Candace has taken my work before too. She is very, very in tune and observant. Thank you for that feedback. Awesome. And Mary, sorry, Mary, I didn't see Mary. Well, yes, Mary, you took part 1. Of course you did. Absolutely. You've taken it. Part 2 may be coming up. But yes, Mary took it as well. You can ask Mary what it was like taking that class. Sorry, Mary, didn't need to leave you out of that list. Candace took the first one, but Candace got it. The Pongu Shingon, it boosts the Blu-ray. That's how I feel about it too. Combining them give you this extra special loveliness. Nancy says, very easy, just takes intention, a little bit of time. Yeah, that's it. So simple. I'll throw that link out there soon for you guys. You guys on Twitter Spaces watching this feed, you probably never heard me talk about the classwork like that, but you can learn to do this. You can learn the Qigong form to really boost that field for yourself. And if you're into treating other people, you can also learn the Blu-ray stuff to combine with the Qigong form. Frank says, I'm a participant and student of Pongu Shingon and Blu-ray and other tools. Frank absolutely is. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time. And hopefully this is educational, experientially educational as well. And thanks for being here. And I'll see you soon.